Alright people, midweek report time. So, a lot of stuff to talk about. Apologies for not getting the live in yesterday. Had a lot of stuff on yesterday, and by the time, well, actually wasn't even home by the time, but there was a lot of stuff on, so apologies about that. We will try and do a live, maybe on Friday. But we're definitely going to do, by the way, we're definitely doing a watch along for Anthony Joshua's fight this weekend. Normal-ish time. Anthony Joshua does have a fight. He has a fight against Robert Helenius. And I guess with Robert Helenius, it really is, it's the best of a bad situation, you know, because what were you going to do realistically? I mean, people said like Hrgovic and people like that, they were never going to do Hrgovic. I said that in the video, they were never going to do that. It was going to be a case of, it's going to be a step down from Dillian Whyte because, and it would, to be honest with you, it would make no sense to get a fighter who's based in America, regardless of their level, to fight Anthony Joshua, if you think about it, because on a week's notice, if you live in California, we'll say, right, it's what, 8 hours time difference to the UK, to London, so you're going to have to, it takes longer, it varies, but normally it takes a while to acclimatise, you know, get rid of the jet lag. So if you were going to get an American fighter, or a fighter who's based in America, who's kind of at that level, the Robert Helenius level, they're essentially fighting one hand tied behind their back just with the jet lag. So you were going to obviously get a fighter in Europe, or someone who was already in the UK, you know, Jared Washington was the name. They got Robert Helenius, who just fought last weekend, so he's definitely in fighting shape. He only just had a fight, and I'm sure that they would have probably contacted them on the Sunday to say, don't go too ham over the next few days, get your arse over to London. So that's what he's doing. In terms of an opponent, I mean, Helenius, yeah, he's tall, he's 6'5", 6'6", long, rangy. He doesn't normally fight rangy, to be honest, though, but, you know, I don't mind it necessarily. If you flip of a coin, him versus Washington, who would you rather? And I like the fact that Helenius, it just adds a bit of intrigue, is that Helenius can really punch. Like, Helenius really can't do anything in a boxing ring. He really can't, except punch. He can do that. That's all he can do. But it's a damn useful tool to have in the bag. And Robert Helenius, I'm just trying to think here. Out of all the fighters Anthony Joshua has fought in his pro career, with the exception maybe of Vladimir Klitschko, Helenius might be the biggest puncher he's faced. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head who's Joshua's fought. I would say Helenius hits harder than Povetkin, Andy Ruiz, Parker, Dillian Whyte, Usyk. I would say that with the exception of maybe Klitschko, I'd say Helenius is more heavy-handed than Klitschko, though. I'd say Klitschko is more an explosive puncher. But Helenius is right up there in the heavyweight division in terms of punching power. He can certainly do that. So there will be a bit of danger there for Anthony Joshua, make no mistake about it. I expect him to come through, no questions asked. Helenius is not particularly durable. You know, obviously Deontay Wilder took him out and around. I hope Joshua in this fight, right? I'd like to see him go in there and try and get the stoppage, which I think he will. Helenius isn't the most durable guy in the world. But what else I'd like to see? I'd like to see Joshua go in there and just fight his own fight. Yeah, Deontay Wilder stopped Robert Helenius in a round. That's very good. That's fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't stop him in a round, it means you're terrible. Deontay Wilder did what he needed to do. He did his thing. He caught him with a right hand. He did what he did. If that doesn't happen to you in the first round, so be it. If it takes you 4 rounds, so be it. As long as, you know, you feel you had a good performance, you think it helps with your confidence, it gets you back feeling to your old self, then you're happy out. Doesn't matter if Wilder did it in a round and you don't. Doesn't matter, right? The main thing is go in there and perform to the best of your ability and see how you get on, and hopefully it boosts your confidence. Don't go in there thinking, Wilder got rid of him in a round. I must get rid of him in a round, and if I don't, well, Wilder did it in a round. Oh, don't do that. Joshua has a tendency to overthink, and that means then, because he's overthinking, there's doubt coming in. Because what happens when you overthink, it can be good to some extent, but then doubt starts creeping in, and you don't want that. You just don't want that. So hopefully Joshua just does his own fight, doesn't try and, you know, go one better than Deontay Wilder. He just lets things play out and sees how it goes. It's no longer a pay-per-view card, which is good. Now, like, we can't complain. Like, it's not a pay-per-view card. I hope that those who did pay the pay-per-view would get recouped. As I said in a previous video, I would imagine that not a lot of people paid for this because, well, have paid yet, because normally pay-per-view buys, it tends to be on the week of the fight where you get the most. And I'd say, given the fact that Dillian Whyte failed his drugs test, there was not really much happening with the buying. So now we're all good. It's no longer, it's out of the zone. We'll see. In terms of the card itself, let's have a look-see at the card. You know, one thing I've got to give, this is a critique I had of Eddie Hearn over the last couple of years, and hopefully he's rectifying it now with this card, is that when Eddie Hearn was on Sky, he was pumping out the heavyweight fights, not just as the main event, but on the undercard. And he sort of shied away from that over the last, like, 2 to 3 years. And it was really Frank Warren who was putting on a few more heavyweight shows on the undercard, heavyweight shows altogether. This is good. There's 4 heavyweight fights. You've Campbell Hatton, Macy Rose, George Liddard, and Brandon Scott, who I believe dressed up as Spider-Man. I think he was the guy who dressed up as Spider-Man at the press conference today. Okay, fair enough. He's fighting Lewis Norman. Lewis Norman, that's a featherweight. Lewis Norman is well, he's 14 long. I remember Lewis Norman when he was undefeated on Sky. He fought Charlie Edwards. Was that for a British title at flyweight? But I remember Lewis Norman. He's a journeyman basically at this stage now. He won rounds off Charlie Edwards. That was the first time I ever saw Charlie Edwards. Bit of trivia here. And I wasn't impressed. And I've not been impressed since. There you go. Sonny I've been impressed with, but Charlie, no. That's the card. It's not a terrible card. Standard to zone. Can't complain. Johnny Fisher in there. Derek Chisora versus Washington. Let's see. Interesting that they DM, because BoxRec, I'm not sure how really they do it with regards, you know, their rankings and stuff like that, but they have the main event listed as Philip Herkford versus Dempsey McKean. That's not the main event, we know that. But obviously I think they're putting it as the top because they deem that the most competitive. Dempsey McKean versus Hrgovic. I expect Hrgovic to come through that soundly. You know, I don't expect any bother, but you never know, he's been out of the ring a year. And Joshua Helenius. I don't think I'll do a long ambling prediction video on this. I think I will just tell you here. I would say Joshua to win probably rounds 4 to 6. I don't think it's going to be a first round blowout job. I would say rounds 4 to 6. He'll have a look. He'll be wary of Helenius' power. And I think ultimately he's too good for Helenius anyway. And I think Helenius will just wilt. He's not got much fire for battle. Although saying that, you know, he really did have a bit of an Indian summer over the last few years, coming from the Adam Kalnacki wins. But I think that was well and truly gone once he went in there with Wilder. So I'd say Joshua to win this fight, probably to stop him. I hope he does stop him. Nothing against Helenius, but I feel like Joshua needs that. He needs a good big stoppage win. So that's what I got to say on that. I'll talk briefly about the Dillian Whyte failed drugs test situation. So obviously the picture of health Dan Raphael reported that a couple of days ago, that from his sources, now again, he's not verified the sources and certainly no more has come out since then, but from what he was saying, basically from his sources, hearing that Dillian Whyte failed multiple tests. So yeah, that's not good. I would say, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, that Dillian Whyte, that may be the end of him right there. That may very well be the end of Dillian Whyte right there. Certainly as a top level fighter, because I suspect that they'll make an example out of Dillian Whyte. And given the fact that his status in boxing is not as high as it was 4 years ago, it's not like promoters are eating off him. So I wouldn't say he's going to get much help from anyone, the boxing establishment, anyone. So, nor should he, but if he's failed multiple tests. But I reckon this time now we'll be seeing a 2-year ban. That's what I reckon will come. I reckon a 2-year ban to Dillian Whyte. Now Dillian Whyte, maybe he will look to do things in different countries, I don't know. But I'd say certainly in the UK, I wouldn't be shocked if he has a sizable ban coming his way. And if that's the case, he's what, 35 going on 36? Dillian Whyte is already looking a little bit jaded now at 35. 2 years out of the ring, would it really benefit him? Maybe the rest will do him good, I don't know, but I doubt it very much. Because Dylan Whyte would probably stay in the gym, and he tends to... That's probably one of the reasons why he is looking so jaded as it is. It's not just the fights he's had in a pro ring, but he don't hold back in sparring. And I wonder, is it a case of he's just had lots of wars in sparring, which is another reason why he's a little bit shop worn. And if he's out of the ring for 2 years, he'll probably stay sparring. God knows the sparring he'll do. If he's out of the ring for 2 years, how bad that'll be. He may come back like, he may come back like an amateur who's had too many amateur fights, who's just shot, and they've only had like one pro fight. That could be Dylan Whyte. In terms of other news, Dave Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade is reportedly now in the works to take place at super middleweight later this year. Benavidez, interim champion, so the winner will be mandatory for Canelo Alvarez. Demetrius Andrade wants to be mandatory for Canelo, but he didn't fight Zach Parker when he could have last year and had that chance. I've rated Demetrius Andrade very highly over the last few years, many years now. I do think his best days are behind him, and I have no sympathy for him in this sense, because you had a fight there with Zach Parker. John Ryder stepped in instead because you didn't want to, and he beat him, Zach Parker, and he fought Canelo. All right, he didn't win, but he still got the fight. That could have been you in Mexico, but no. And now you're fighting Dave Benavidez, a massive 168 pounder. You started your career at 154, you got into middleweight, now you're at super middle. I just don't see this going too well for Demetrius Andrade, and nothing against him personally. I really don't see that going well at all. I think that's going to go very, very bad for Demetrius Andrade in there against Dave Benavidez, I would say. So, now this one right here is, this is becoming too prevalent now. So Richard Riakporhe has now pulled out of purse bids which were scheduled for yesterday for his IBF world title shot against Jay Opetaia. He released the following statement. So I'll quote Richard Riakporhe's statement here directly. It says, "I have worked extremely hard the past 2 years to get myself to the top to the top of the cruiserweight division. We had accepted an offer to fight for the IBF title on 2 occasions in 2 different locations for reasons undisclosed to me and my promoter. Those offers were then withdrawn. During these negotiations, I have missed out on other opportunities which has left me inactive. It is clear other parties were simply trying to disrupt my journey, which I won't let happen. I have sacrificed a lot to be in a mandatory position with 2 governing bodies and have worked towards world titles my whole career. I would like to thank the IBF for their support, and I look forward to fighting for their prestigious title one day. However, I have chosen to go a different route. I will be sharing news of another world title opportunity very soon. I will become world champion and I will unify." Another purse bid that Ben Shalom does not go through. And of course he says he has another world title lined up. Chris Billam-Smith. He's a boxer fighter. Ben Shalom is something else. He really is. He seems to want to keep everything literally everything in house. He doesn't want to even risk some of these purse bids. And Ben Shalom, that guy just... Ben Shalom has to be one of the shiftiest, dodgiest promoters around. That guy is just... everything about him. There's just something really, really off-putting about Ben Shalom. It's not just the fact that he's no charisma, so you're not really compelled to watch one of his interviews like you would be a Hearn or Warren interview. There's just something real off about that guy. There's just really, really, really off-putting about him. Absolutely crazy. Oh yeah, so Eddie Hearn and Simon Jordan. Basically, Eddie Hearn and Simon Jordan had a rematch on TalkSport. And Simon Jordan, for whatever reason, correct me if I'm wrong, but it comes to me as like he really does despise Eddie Hearn, Simon Jordan. Is it stemming from the fact that Hearn has mentioned the fact that Simon Jordan was he chairman at Crystal Palace and he's no longer it? Is that what has Simon Jordan, up in arms? Because the way he is when Eddie Hearn is on, it's too personal to be just that, I would imagine. He really seems to have a bee in his bonnet about Eddie Hearn. And the thing is with Simon Jordan, right? Some of the questions he asks Eddie Hearn are legit, and he makes good points with some of them. And two things really say. One, why don't you do that with Frank Warren? Because Warren, they want to say Hearn talks out of his arse, and he certainly does, but Hearn is Warren is the poster boy for talking out your ass. That's Frank Warren. Frank Warren is a gaslighter extraordinaire. That's what he is. And Simon Jordan, interesting, Frank, interesting. And yes, he puts Hearn on blast. So he should. But one thing I don't think he's doing is he's making good points, is Simon Jordan. But the test for Eddie Hearn, he's just getting more, and Hearn is loving it. You can tell Hearn is milking it. He's riling Jordan up, and Jordan is not really thinking logically when he's actually, responding to Eddie Hearn. It's just shouting, and it's hilarious. This beef, give me part 3, because I could watch this over and over again. But that's twice now Hearn has come out looking the better guy at the end of the day, and he has. It's just, he has. Because Eddie Hearn doesn't have, I don't see it. I don't think he has any disdain for Simon Jordan, whereas it's the other way around, I can't say it. And Eddie Hearn is just okay, you're going to grill me, and I'll respond, and then you'll get triggered. Simple as. Whereas Jordan should just keep a calm head. Because some of the things he says, you could say, he's making a good point there, and then he just blows it. He blows a gasket. And I like the fact that Simon Jordan puts people like Eddie Hearn on blast. He should. He absolutely should. But he should do it with Warren too. He should be consistent with that. When Frank Warren's coming in there saying Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou was a great fight and there was no one else available, and he's agreeing with that, that's BS right there. If Simon Jordan was impartial, which I don't think he is, I don't know why he's not like that with Warren, but he's not. He's turning around and say, what about Frank Sanchez? Oh, well, they don't bring any money to the table. Well, you sold Tom Schwartz versus Tyson Fury as a world title fight. You put it on pay-per-view. Who the hell was Tom Schwartz? Senad Gashi was his best win, for God's sakes. But no, we didn't see that. We didn't see that at all. So that's I got a bit ranty there about that, didn't I? Probably because I don't have a lot going on outside of here, but there's a little few things. It's not anything that's making me angry or anything like that, but it's one thing after another this year, it seems, with your boy. It's always something this year. It's I'm starting to wonder, am I cursed for 2023? But as is always the case, the show goes on. A little bit of info there for you. But here we go. Another fight that's been, a fight that's not actually been announced. It's been rescheduled. So obviously we were meant to, I think it would have been this weekend actually. Next weekend, sorry. No, yeah, next weekend. It would have been Artur Beterbiev versus Callum Smith. We're not getting that. And they've rescheduled it for flipping January, lads. January 13th. Quite a bit away in the future. I know Beterbiev had injuries, but they must be more severe if they're rescheduled till early next year. And I'm surprised Callum Smith is going to stick around for that. I really am. I genuinely, hand on heart, would have thought they would have got Bivol for Smith, because who's Bivol fighting? There's no one announced. So I would have thought for Eddie Hearn, it's a case of, right, here's what we're going to do. Callum, you're getting a world title shot, just not against Beterbiev. You, Bivol. How about you do it in Saudi Arabia or Dubai, somewhere like that again, like you did last year with Bivol? There you go. I just think that would make logical sense. Just for me, I think that would make sense. But we'll see, because I'm quite looking forward to seeing, when Dimitri Bivol will be back out in the ring. Because I like Dimitri Bivol. I like watching Dimitri Bivol. I think he's tremendously talented. So I'm looking forward to seeing when he's back out in the ring. And it'll be a year come November that he fought Gilberto Ramirez. So I'd like to see Bivol get back out there. I seen an interview with Otto Wallin. He was interviewed by Andy with Boxing News. And he said that he was in training for a fight in September. Thought nothing of it. Well, here, according to men's fitness expert Dan Raphael, that Otto Wallin versus Murat Gassiev is reportedly being finalised for a clash in Turkey in September. in Turkey of all places. Okay, so it's not a country I would really associate with boxing, to be 100% brutally honest and frank. Not a country I would really associate with boxing at all, really. All right. In terms of the fight, I like that fight. You know, Valine is the mover. Markasiev is more to seek and destroy. I'm not really sure who I take in that fight, to be honest. I rate Kasiev highly, but since he's moved to heavyweight, he's fought basically no one, and he's been very badly injured, like riddled with injuries. Now, Markasiev, the one thing that he has that is in his favour is that he's still quite young. Like, Kasiev is about 29, about 28, 29. I know, he doesn't look it. He doesn't look it. But he is apparently 28, 29. Yeah, he really is. He's still in his 20s. Doesn't look it, but he is, allegedly. Anyway, according to Wikipedia and all BoxRec and all, he's 29. I'd sooner believe him, but you never know. People do make up their dates of births. But that's one thing he does have in his favour, is that he is still quite young, so there is still time for him. Him against Valine, let's see. Stephen Fulton has stated that now he intends, after his loss to Naoya Inoue, that he's going to go up to 126 pounds. He said he plans to win a world title and then seek a rematch with Inoue when he moves up to featherweight. I mean, fair play, Stephen Fulton. He obviously still wants that smoke with Inoue. He'll fit in well at 126. It's not the most stacked division now, to be honest with you. You know, you would say Lopez is probably the best in that division, and I would say yes, he probably is. But it's not the strongest, so I'm sure Fulton could pick up a title, and once Inoue comes in there, run very fast. Now, the IBF situation. The IBF have now ordered Jayat Pataya to make a mandatory defence against Myris Bradis next. Right. Matt Clark has revealed that the parties have until the 8th of September to come to an arrangement. Has he even fought Myris Bradis since he lost? So, look, the first fight was good. Don't get me wrong. It was a good fight, but has he even earned a crack? Let's see. So, they fought last... Oh my good lord. He's not even fought since then. Like, why are they, like, naming Bradis mandatory when he's not even fought since then? Like, the IBF, seriously. You got to do better than that. Surely there was someone... You could have... Surely there was something you could have done. You could have ordered an eliminator or something. Like, I'm all for someone earning their shot, or if they have a win or two and you want to give him a voluntary. He's not fought since then, so it's literally just... You've ordered a rematch, as if there was controversy. There wasn't. But you really can't do any better than just a rematch against the guy you beat who hasn't fought since then. Or look, to be fair, the first fight was good, so I'll watch the second fight, but really, you couldn't just... Someone else, I suppose, who was there really, to be honest with you? I guess you got to take that into consideration, but yeah, that's where we stand with that. So, ultimately, I think that is pretty much it. The reason why I'm doing this on a Wednesday as opposed to a Thursday is, well, simple as a lot of news has come out over the last few days. I wanted to cover it, and I'm home on a Wednesday today, so there you go. For now, lads and lassies, I will leave it there. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. As always, if you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. For now, lads and lassies, I'll leave it there. I'll talk to you. Peace.